Hi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Martina, and I was born in 1973 and brought up for my early years in rural Southern Ireland.
So you say you were brought up in rural Ireland. What was life like back then in there?
So I was brought up in a farming community, with like lots of family around me, a very large family community. My dad had lots of siblings, so there were lots of aunties and uncles and like 25 or 30 first cousins. We all had farms and everyone played together.
You moved from your life in rural Ireland to England at quite a young age. What was it like moving at that kind of age?
Um, it's funny actually thinking about it now because it was only from Ireland to England, but it was quite a big deal. Probably because when we moved over, we spoke English, of course. We went to school, and the children all crowded around myself and my sisters and were asking us questions, and we were answering the questions. And then one of the children said, does anyone know what they're saying? What are they saying? What language are they speaking? And they couldn't understand our accents, and they thought we weren't speaking English. So we decided that we had to change our accents quite quickly. So we spent the next 4 or 5 weeks watching BBC News, and it was in the days before there were any regional accents. So we developed these very home counties accents from just learning from, copying what they were doing on the news.
All this happened when you were very young, obviously. What would you say your earliest memory is?
Gosh, that's a tricky one. When I was in Ireland, I remember there was a man called Matty the postman, and he'd been the postman for years, and he was a real chatter, like he talked all the time. And he came to deliver some post, and he was chatting to my mum, probably having a cup of tea with her or something. And I got into the back of his van, and I must have fallen asleep in the back of his van, and he drove off. And hours later, he nearly had a heart attack when he found me in the back of his van, and he drove me back to my mum. But the funny thing is, maybe that's the difference between 70s parenting and now. I'd been gone for maybe 3 hours, and my mum hadn't even realised, which is quite
Obviously,
funny.
obviously, you've lived through many major world events, one of which being the death of Princess Diana.
Yeah.
What can you remember of this?
It was really shocking, actually. So I remember it was on a Sunday, it happened on a Sunday morning, and I hadn't seen the news before I was out, but I was doing a driving lesson with my boyfriend at the time, and I had a car, and we had gone to fill up with petrol, I think, at the garage, and there was the front page of the newspaper there, and they were looking for a little white car that was the same as the car that I was driving. And so I was like, oh my God, I hope they don't think that I had anything to do with her accident, even though I wasn't in Paris and the accident was in Paris. But that was the first thing I thought of. But it was really shocking, because everyone well, a lot of people quite idolised her.
Obviously you've lived through many other world events. What would you say is the largest one you've lived through?
Um, I mean, the Berlin Wall coming down was really big. But something that was probably really shocking that I remember really vividly, that was much more recent, was when the planes went into the Twin Towers on 9/11.
What can you remember of this?
I was working at the time, and I had just become an estate agent, and we just finished our morning meeting, and you weren't allowed to talk to people then because you had to get on the phones, be hammering the phones. But somebody must have had a message from someone else about it, or an email, and then everyone was talking about it, and we were out of our seats and looking at videos and things of it, because it was all over the place. It was really, really shocking.
How would you say the world has changed since from when you were growing up to now?
Um, It's funny, I think everybody knows where everyone is all the time now, which wasn't the case when I was growing up. So when I was a child, we would disappear off for hours down onto the beach, scrabbling down like 100-foot cliffs down onto the beach. We'd be gone for hours, we'd be off in the fields, and we would just know that we had to come home, because my mum would bang the saucepan lids together and you could hear them, or you'd know that you were hungry and like run back home. Whereas now people know, parents know where their children are always, because you've got trackers on their phone. They've got phones as well anyway. Everyone knows where everyone is, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a shame that children don't have more freedom. So, social media is a massive change as well. So, when I was growing up, there wasn't lots of media everywhere, and now it's absolutely all over the place, for good and for bad. And I guess it means you can see things going on around the world. Almost, it feels like firsthand, which you wouldn't have been able to do before. So, there's some dreadful things going on in the world now that you can see live footage of, and you can see from people's phone cameras and things dreadful things happening. Um, and sadly, someone will be at some stage on StoryVault in a few years' time. Do you remember, where you were when you witnessed all those dreadful atrocities unfolding, and what did you do about it?